Well, hello, I'm Rob Howard, founder and CEO of Kindred Motorworks, and I want to welcome you to a conversation with our newest investor and advisor, Michael Strahan.
Yes, hey, and a car lover like
Yeah,
you.
yeah. You're obviously Pro Football Hall of Famer and a broadcaster, entrepreneur, but you're also super savvy business person. And what I appreciate about you is you have this real appreciation for craftsmanship and innovation and storytelling, and it just feels like the perfect fit for Kindred.
Well, my whole motivation to do all the stuff that I do is cars. It really is. As a kid growing up, it's like I fell in love early, and once you get that bug, you can't shake it.
Yeah.
So I just had to feed it. But I love the craftsmanship. I love just the artistry of it. And I appreciate everything that goes into making something that has so many parts come together and make one thing that is just fantastic.
Yeah. Where did your love of cars start? Did it start back in Germany, or is that in Texas, or is it more recent?
Well, I think in Germany, I really fell in love with cars. But I remember as a kid, being the youngest of 6 kids, and my dad would love cars too. But we didn't have fancy cars. He had 6 kids.
Yeah.
Definitely didn't have fancy cars. Being in the military, but he used to play reel to reel of race cars, going down the track, or drag cars, and hooking up to the reel and just listen to that stuff. We used to go to car shows. We used to go to racetracks. When we moved to Germany, because he had his friend Tony Rowe was a big drag racer and had a Chevelle, and we used to always go out there to support that and be a part of his team, and always riding school buses with my brother. And we see a car and that's my car. And they go, no, it's mine. I beat you to it. No, we fight over a car that neither one of us could have owned or could have afforded at the time. And we were very big into buying car magazines, so much so that my mom said, if you wouldn't buy so many magazines, you probably could afford a car. So I fell in love early on as a kid. I think it's something that it connected me with my dad. It's something that connected me with my brothers. And that love has been with me ever since I was 7 years old.
It's a similar story for me. I really feel very connected to my dad through cars.
Yeah.
Because growing up, it was when a car broke in our house, we had to fix it. So that was quality time with Dad.
Yeah.
And it unlocked just enough knowledge about these old cars that I was no longer intimidated to work on them.
Yeah.
And I think some of the roots of Kindred probably go all the way back to that.
And my first job, I worked in Frankfurt, Germany. My dad's friend Tony Rowe, the drag racer, my dad had retired, and my dad was running a program for City Colleges of Chicago, a automotive program for soldiers. One of the facilities was in Frankfurt. Tony Rowe was the instructor, my dad's friend, so we used to drive to Frankfurt, Germany in a 928.
Oh, wow.
3 days a week. And I was the tool kid. I would hand out tools and let the soldiers check out the tools. And then I ended up at 13, I ended up buying I don't know why I bought the car because I couldn't drive it, but it was a 70 Camaro and had to rebuild the engine on that.
Yeah.
And just being around it and learning just gave me even more interest and let me know really how amazing it is when you work on your own things. I think you have a different appreciation for them. You take care of them in a different way. And for me now, even though I don't work on these cars, I do have an understanding enough and appreciation enough to take care of them for the person who did make it or for the next person who's going to have it.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference in these vintage cars. There needs to be more love for the car and patience for the car.
So you're more into like modern cars, vintage cars, a combination?
I have a car from the 50s, one from the 60s, one from the 70s, one from the 80s. And then I do have a daily driver that I put a lot of miles on.
Yeah.
But definitely I skew old school in the cars. Always have.
I evolve. I've gone 60s. I still have 70s. I have 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010, 2020. I got to cover all of them. But there are certain days I walk into the garage and I'm like, oh man, these are a bunch of older cars in here. And there are certain days I walk in here and I'm going, okay, this may be a little too modern. Because sometimes too modern always start to feel the same.
Yeah.
I love each car for the individuality of each brand. and everything has a different experience when you drive it. Everything emotes a different feel. I don't know how you feel about it. When I drive certain car, I get a different feeling from a truck to a car or a different brand.
Yep.
And I don't know if you've experienced the same thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, the goal for me is always to try and be present in the car, you know?
Yeah.
So that's one of the things about Kindred that's really important is you don't need to worry about the car. The car is going to stop. It's going to start. So you can actually...
Important thing.
Yeah, it is. But it allows you to really be present and enjoy the driving experience. So it gets you to like a whole nother level in the car where it's joyful, you know, driving the car, which is kind of the whole goal of the company, really.
So what made you wake up and go, I'm going to start a company. Oh, I'm going to make great cars.
I tell you, I'm so lucky. I could not have designed a better career to put me in the spot to start this company. Mm-hmm. So I was an environmental engineer undergrad, and spent a lot of time doing that. But I started a company that was a supply chain company, and supply chain is really important for what Kindred does.
Yeah.
We have to have all those parts dialed. And then I started another company that was a technology company, so not afraid to build technology. And again, at Kindred, tech is really important.
Yeah.
Like we have this blueprint platform that keeps all the work instructions and the supply chain all clean and orchestrates the manufacturing. And then I worked for Target for a little bit. They bought my last company, so I learned all about retail. But all the way along, I've been restoring cars in my garage at night. And that was really, for me, a desire to work with my hands, to have a tangible experience. So you add that up, I'm a car guy. Supply chain, technology, retail, like I could not have designed a better career to end up in the moment to start this company.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you mentioned like supply chain and the company and organization, and that's what struck me when I came out to the factory. I mean, first of all, you're awesome.
Thank you.
But I'm walking around going, okay, everything here is in such incredible order. Everything is immaculate. I've seen these design team over here, and everybody's got their different things that they're working on, and everybody's focused, but everybody was happy. Everybody's really, really happy. And you could tell everybody takes a lot of pride in what they're doing. And then to actually drive the vehicle, I'm going, oh yeah, you can tell they take pride, and they've really made incredible vehicles, which really is what got me excited about it.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I drive a lot of different cars and can have anything and pretty much want, but it's something to find something that you feel special about.
Yeah, I remember talking to you about your impressions of the visit, and you said, we're 3 for 3 here, Rob. I love the fact that you're creating these great jobs, right? You're creating careers for these folks that are hourly workers who eventually will be running the company one day.
Yeah.
Those are great jobs. And then the cars themselves, obviously, you've purchased a couple of them, so obviously you like those. But I think the business model too, you really appreciated how we're doing things differently and thinking about how to reinvent vintage car ownership in a really broad way. And that was cool to hear your impressions of those 3 things.
I think that's what scares people. Yeah. When people think about vintage cars, they think problem. Am I going to make it where I want to go? Is it going to work when I need it to work? Am I going to have to call my spouse and say, I need you to come pick me up on the side of the freeway? Yeah. And you've alleviated a lot of that worry, and that's what I love about it, because I want the vintage look, I want the vintage feel, I want the car to feel visceral. Yeah. Like this Porsche, it feels visceral, even though it's electric. And that was the important things to me that I think get lost in a lot of other in other ways. So you've done a great job of harnessing all those things of someone who wants an older car, wants an older look, wants an older feel, but also wants the reliability of something modern.
Yeah, I think really the vintage cars look really cool, but to own one's intimidating. You almost need to be a gearhead, and then trying to find a local shop to work on the car, and even the buying experience. Going to bring a trailer. Your heart says, I want that car. And then you wake up the next morning and say, I'm not buying that car. Your head's like, wait a second, who's going to work on it? Is it reliable? So we've really tried hard to just reinvent that entire experience. So the car is reinvented, fully modernized, right? So it's drivable and enjoyable. The buying experience is increasingly through our dealer partners, same place you bought your last car probably, and they offer service, which takes away a huge part of the problem. And then increasingly we're doing financing too, which kind of reinvents the entire arc of that vintage car ownership away from gearhead towards just about anybody.
Yeah, which is true, because you do worry, where am I going to get it serviced? Are they going to know what they're doing? Am I going to have to go around and look up shops and go out and basically talk to people and figure out which one's the best? Yeah. But the fact that you can buy these with a dealer network that come with a warranty, that comes with someone who could work on the car, where you can get financing as well. I mean, that kind of checks all the boxes for anybody who's been on the fence because they want a certain look, but just think that there could be other issues. And that's what I fell in love with. That, and the fact that, and I think that's what's so interesting and so great about Kindred, is that it wasn't just about one vehicle as well. I drove the gas-powered Bronco, which was fantastic. I've driven the electric Bronco, which the second I got out, I placed an order. Which I want to ask you, when am I getting the car, Rob? It should be here soon.
We're about a month out. Yeah.
Okay, about a month. It's good to know. And then you said, Michael, I got this something I'm working on right now, and I want you to check it out. After we looked at the VW bus as well, and it was this Porsche. And I'm like, oh, you know what? Electric Porsche. All right. I got in that thing and got out with the biggest smile on my face, because like I say, you captured the essence of a Porsche. You didn't lose the soul of the car by modernizing it in this way. Yeah. And I think that's a special thing. That takes a lot of skill and artistry.
It's a hard thing to do. You know, you can't just flip a switch. We have to spend $3 or $4 million building up a car, taking it down.
For each vehicle, you're spending like $3 or $4 million per vehicle to make sure it's good.
Yeah, we have. I mean, for that EV Bronco that you purchased, we have 6 prototypes at various stages, right? And we take it to the mountains to make sure the 4-wheel drive is awesome and it works in the snow. We take it to the desert to make sure the air conditioning is adequate, you know. And we make a bunch of mistakes along the way, but you want to get all those mistakes done in the R&D process so that when you get to production, it's freaking perfect, right? So that's the difference between like buying a car from a DIY person who does it themselves, like I've done in my garage, or even from a local shop who's doing one-off custom.
Yeah.
When you standardize it like that, first of all, the parts are available so you can fix it, and the work instructions.
That's a big issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, it gives us the time to really be thoughtful, right? You know, for example, this 911, I always drive the model we're going to do next for about a year beforehand. And a bunch of things stand out about what you have to keep, but the ones that really stand out are what you got to get rid of. You know? And I know you've owned a bunch of Porsches over the years. The heating and air conditioning systems are just very confusing and don't work.
I was going to say, I wasn't even going to say difficult. I was just going to say flat out confusing. I'm looking at knobs and things and little levers. I don't know what to do. I have no idea. I just keep turning until eventually heater AC comes on.
Yeah. I've driven it for a year. I still can't figure it out. And when I do get the heater on, is a little bit of oil from the engine that shows up on the inside of the windshield through the HVAC system, you know, and that's a very common problem in these cars. So just thinking about, you know, why that's happening and how to avoid it. You know, just the door panel, you know, it has like this little piece that always sags, and the storage compartment that doesn't work, you know. So we looked at that and said, let's reinvent that so it's actually usable, you know. And then just the basics of rear view camera, and we want to charge your phone and have a great stereo system because music is really important to the driving experience. It's probably the funnest job in the company, by the way, is the design side of what we do.
Yeah, it looks like it. It really looks like it. And but it was funny. You're talking about the standard rear view camera. My rear view camera used to be that. Your neck.
I still can't use it. I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, you turn. You know what? I watch my kids when they drive, and they don't even turn their heads. I'm like, I know the camera's there, the guide, okay, but turn your head, use your neck. Yeah. But it is But yeah, it does have everything, and I think that's the fun thing about it. You can actually use the cars. It's one thing. I've had older cars of all different types. Each time I got in, I'm kind of holding my breath. I'm like, maybe this is the day, maybe not. And then you make it back, and you're like, thank you. I've been on the side of the road a few times, you know, with things that have happened. But it's nothing like knowing that, you know, you have the reliability, man. And so that's why I have an appreciation for the brand. That's why I invested in the brand. That's why I bought products from it, you know. And for me, it's one thing to buy a car, but it's another actually to invest in a brand.
Yeah.
Because that's a whole different thing. There's a separation between the pleasure and the business of it, but they both made a lot of sense to me. And I am a happy, joyful investor and customer, and I can't wait for the Porsche.
Well, your guidance and your friendship, it's making the company better. So really want to thank you for that.
No, of course, man. And and what I love too, the experience. When I went out there, you had the first customer for the first EV Bronco.
That's right.
There with his wife. They actually came to look at a VW bus that she wanted, and he fell in love with the Bronco and bought a Bronco. But to see the way that they were treated there and being shown their build as it's going through the process, that's kind of like a community and family kind of atmosphere where you can feel very personally connected to your vehicle and personally connected to the company.
Yeah.
And 'cause you don't get that.
Yeah, you really got to the heart of it. And as a reason, we're called Kindred. You know, I love that word. It's kind of an underutilized word, you know, but it has positive connotation. But to me, it goes right to community.
Yeah.
Right? These cars are Kindred spirited original, but also the owners of these cars are your kin, really. And that community is a really important part of what we do for the employees, but also for the customers. In fact, we actually invite our customers to come work on their car. So about half come
Turn
to
a
our
wrench.
building. Yeah, they come to the building. We give them the iPad with the work instructions.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's just for an Instagram little shot.
Yeah.
But other times we can't get them to leave because they just want to work on that car. So that's just another example of the desire to have a community and some loyalty with our customers and the employees.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that I love doing is actually working on the car. It makes me love the car more.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to deliver that to our customers. And it's a unique thing to be able to do.
But it's true though. If you turn a wrench or you put some little sweat equity into it, no matter how big or small, it does connect you.
Yeah.
I mean, plain and simple. And you know, it's so funny. People come, they don't want to stop. It's like, oh, I haven't actually had to pick up a tool in a while, and it really is a connection because cars, as you know, it's a community to me, and it would be a lot of fun. At one point, we got to do this, where we're gonna have like a Kindred reunion. Trucks, cars, whatever anybody has,
Yeah.
and we get together and we take a nice road trip. Set up restaurants, food, drinks,
I
but
got
not
this.
those kind of drinks because we're driving. But set that up along the way, and it would just be interesting to do that and just hear everybody's experiences. And because I love that.
Yeah.
I love these type of rallies. And I have a lot of friends who I drive with who I know the second car they're parked in the garage, they're gonna want to take them out.
Yeah.
And I know they'll be blown away by them.
Yeah, I was thinking of you because last weekend I have a 75 Targa as one of our prototype cars, Porsche Targa. And I drove it through Marin County and Sonoma County for the entire afternoon. It was a gorgeous day out on the California coast. And I was like, this is pure joy.
Top off?
Top off.
Oh.
Yeah. We should set that up as our next get together, actually.
Yeah.
Like you and me, some friends, and some Kindred customers.
do it.
All on a road trip. And there's some cool little towns we can stop at. And I'm sure car talk is going to come up.
What has been, you know, out of curiosity of someone who hasn't done what you've done in this with this business, but what was the toughest part?
You know, I think you got to be really resilient, is because as the founder and the CEO, you end up with all kinds of no's and challenges along the way, right? And building a car is really hard. There's 1,200 parts in this car. You know, there's 100 different suppliers. You know, safety is important too.
Yeah.
You know, but also these people's jobs really depend on the company being viable. So for me, the hardest part is always making sure that I'm resilient to the challenges, and kind of when you see that challenge, working your way around it and getting through it. Because I've done it before, it's helpful to realize what matters and what doesn't. But I think the hardest part of being the founder and CEO of any company probably is making sure you can get back up again and go at it again. You know.
And you said, what, 1,200 parts, spending $3 or $4 million in development. So that means you're putting it together, you're taking it apart, you're putting it together, you're taking it apart, you're driving it in between all those things to work out any kink.
Yeah, exactly. Like our VW bus is a good example. We do electric VW bus, 1950, 1967. It's like that smile machine, you know, split window bus out there. But there's like 5 different bumper options on that thing, right? You know, there's like the basic bumper. There's one with the little, you know, side pieces. So we have to test the quality of the supplier. We have to test how hard is it to install. In that case, we tested how much range do you lose because you have this big bumper on there as opposed to the simple bumper, you know? So there's all kinds of trials and tribulations. And even when we're done, it does change over time, like where the supplier goes out of business or we have feedback from customers that we want to do an upgrade. So there's even more kind of sustaining engineering involved in making sure that we have this thing all tied together right.
And what is the best part?
Well, I guess for me, the 2 parts I love are driving the cars and the design process, right? So I'm lucky I get to drive a Kindred most all the time. And you get really used to, honestly, parking the car, getting out, and having somebody want to talk to you about it. You know, so it's joyful for me to own it, but it also is for someone else to see that car back to life. You know, so I find a lot of joy in that. And then the design process, just thinking about how do we balance the curation of this nostalgia with the modern needs to make it reasonable to drive and own. And it's a hard balancing act. And when it comes out right, it just feels great.
You know what I love, though? I love when you have a car and you walk away and you got to turn around and look at it. You cannot just get out, lock it, and go. I have to turn around.
That's so well said.
I mean, I keep looking back here just to make sure still there hasn't left us. But it's such a good feeling when you get out of your car and you're like, okay, I'll be back. Let me get one more look at you, baby.
Thank you for some introductions you've made to dealers out there across the country. What is it do you think attracts a dealer to carrying Kindred as a brand?
I think dealers look at it and they see quality. They see everything that you put into it, all the development. It's not something that's just put together, something that is thought through, something that is redefined, I guess the best way to put it, and something that they know they can get behind that their customers would want. And just like anything else, if you have a customer, you want to make sure your customer has options of the best. And I think that's why these dealers are eager and happy to join the Kindred family.
Yeah, no, it's
so for you though, I have a question. Why dealers? Why not direct to consumer like Tesla does?
Yeah, I think for us, being able to forward deploy that car, put it into the local community, and allow for the test drives is really important. But also, we get to borrow the dealer's brand, you know, and the credibility of that local dealer. So for Kindred, there's a lot of value, right? Because they already know how to sell these cars, but they know how to service them also, right? And that's the key thing. So from a customer standpoint, it's good for the customers, I think, because we get that extra layer of credibility from the dealer and the confidence of the service, which just doesn't exist in the vintage car world. As we talked about, trying to find someone to work on these cars is really difficult. And these dealers are really good at service. They can trust Kindred because we're standardized. So we have the parts in inventory, and we can ship it out next day to them, and we have the work instructions, a service desk. So they know for the first time, their salespeople can sell these vintage cars because they're standardized and know how to talk about it. And then their service team can service them. And EV or not, they have these capabilities in-house to do that. So again, going back to like reinventing vintage car ownership, the dealers allow us to do that. So we're big believers in partnering up with the best out there.
Because that's kind of unheard of in this world. But also, how about the financing part? Because I found that to be interesting too. Because finance is a whole different thing too, and you can say own a car $2,000 a month.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's again something unique about Kindred. It took us 5 years to get to the credibility to earn the right to sell cars to dealers and in dealerships, but also on the financing side, there's value in these cars forevermore, right? So these cars retain their value really well. So we have a financing partner that's willing to kind of underwrite, knowing they can resell that car at a good price, extend that financing terms for about $2,000 a month for our Broncos, for example. It's a relatively long payment period, but it works just right for our customers. It kind of expands the pie of the number of people that can buy these cars from writing that $200,000 check to just the $2,000 a month.
And you know what you're getting. And I think that's the reassuring thing for me. I know what I'm getting, and I know when I'm getting a car that I can get serviced. I know I got a company that really put a lot of development into it. I know it's serviceable in a sense because the parts are available and it's standardized. Like all those things make a difference for somebody like me who really thinks through purchasing cars, which should be even more assuring for someone who just on a whim purchases a car without thinking about those type of things, just knowing that that safety net is there.
Yeah, you're a value buyer. Like you think about the economics. You don't want to get screwed, right? And I think Kindred kind of gives you protection in that. The brand itself, it's a Kindred, retains value in the long term for the car. And that's an important part of the buying experience. You don't want to buy a car and then go to half value the moment you take it off the lot.
Been there.
Yeah, exactly. It's not
Didn't
fun.
like it.
Yeah.
Never liked it.
Yeah.
So I definitely have a value customer, a buyer. And there are always things that, I'll wait and buy it secondhand because I know I'll let somebody else take that hit. But I saw this and I couldn't wait secondhand.
Yeah.
I saw the Bronco. I was like, okay, I really want this now, and
Well,
911.
For this 911, we're already sold out in 26 through insiders.
How many?
Well, there's only going to be about a dozen available early 2027, right? So I think the moment we announce this car together, they're going to be hard to get. And the reason that's valuable for the owner is it creates some scarcity around the car. So for the long term, it retains its value.
So you're not thinking about just, okay, we're going to make these cars, we're going to sell 1 million of them. You actually are rewarding or looking out for the buyer in the sense that you're creating value, long-term value.
We are absolutely going to protect the owners and really build the value of the Kindred brand by limiting the availability of the cars. And we can still grow because we add new models to our lineup every year.
Yeah.
So we don't need to sell more and more and more of any one model. We're fine kind of capping production on that so that we can get an additional model into the market. And I think that's also been missing from the rest of mod world. You get folks that are really good at one model, and then they get kind of bound up in their supply chain, and the knowledge to build these cars is limited, and the thought of doing another one just fades away. But we were designed from day one to do that.
But I'm curious though, to do a Bronco, to redesign a Bronco and to redesign a 911 seems like completely different things.
Well, what's cool is the EV parts of it are the same. So the battery boxes, the cooling systems, the heating, the high voltage wiring harness, the controls for the instrumentation on a dash, it's all the same technology across all of our EVs. So we spent a lot of time building that platform. We call that Grayback. It's named after a submarine that was built in our building in the 1950s. So it's like an internal Grayback term. But we at first blush, it feels like you're reinventing everything all over again. But we get to use a lot of the same vendors, which is really important, those relationships. And on the EV side, we reuse a lot of the parts. And then for the Bronco, when you go to another SUV, which is going to be in our pipeline, you get to reuse the suspension systems and braking systems and steering systems that you used the first time around. All that work you figured out what went well, what didn't, you can actually get better at next time.
And another model. But also, one thing I was impressed about with the 911 when I drove it, weight balance.
Yeah.
Because that's important. If someone is so used to having a gas-powered 911,
Yeah.
and they say, well, I want something more reliable. I want something I can tool around in the city on the weekend. You still want that feel. You still want that weight to balance.
Yeah. So this car originally was 60-40 weight to the back. And it's like the defining characteristic of the car, of that car. Since then, Porsche has kind of moved it up a little bit, so it's a little more balanced than that. But we chose to honor the 60-40 in this car, right? Because we have the ability to kind of move the batteries wherever we want to. So for the bus, it's 25% weight per wheel, so it's super stable. But for this, we wanted to make sure we kept the original feel of the car. So we kept it at 60/40 so you can recognize that drive experience. Yeah.
Little,
Yeah, exactly. You got to pay attention when you drive that car. Right?
yeah, I've driven it. I
Yeah.
was paying attention between the smiles.
Yeah. I think from what I heard, you put that car through a serious workout.
I had fun with it. You say drive it like you stole it.
Yeah.
I kind of did steal it from you for a minute, and I drove it like that.
So if I had to ask you, what's your dream model for Kindred? Do you have a model recommendation for us?
A dream model for Kindred.
No promises here.
It's kind of tough. Oh man, I have so many cars that are running through my brain. You already did the 911, which is one of my favorite cars of all time. I love Mercedes. Big Mercedes lover. I think about a Pagoda, but then I think to myself, a 190, maybe a little too small for me to get in and out of.
Right.
I think of a 300 SL,
Yeah.
but that's a high mark to start at if you're gonna do a car. I like some of my favorite ones I've had. I had an E500, which I loved.
I think those are good cars to think about because they mechanically are fading away.
Yeah.
And they're really hard to work on.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, exactly.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Very hard to work
So,
on.
but the design is classic.
Yeah.
It's immortal. I think that type of car, like that ethos, is the right thing for us to get after.
And I always loved the E500 because it kind of had a storied history of Mercedes. It was built by Porsche.
Yeah.
And that Porsche needed work because they were in a bad situation.
struggling.
Mercedes had this car designed by Porsche, couldn't build on their assembly line because it wasn't wide enough.
Yeah.
So they sent it to Porsche to build it. And I absolutely love that car. I love the 300 SE,
Yeah.
the convertible, the hard tops. I love vintage Mercedes, but as you said, it's very hard to find someone to work on. The reliability sometimes isn't always there. But I love sports cars, period. Trust me, if we sat here long enough, I give you about 10 other cars we can work on, from BMWs to, Lancias, you name it. I could keep on coming up with cars.
Well, it's a raging debate around Kindred at all times. What's the next model? So.
But how do you determine that?
Well, we want to make sure that they made a significant number of those cars in the first place. And then that there's a parts ecosystem available so that we can actually reasonably rebuild the car. Yeah. And then a community of buyers that love that car. And you kind of add all those up, that tells you kind of the size of the opportunity. And then we think about it from an engineering standpoint. How hard is it to do these cars? As a question. When we do the 911, if you have a good running gasoline 911, you should not convert it to electric. The challenge is a lot of these 911s are not very good, right? So what do you do with those? And you can go and try and rebuild that motor. It's very expensive to do so. It's only going to work so many times. Or you can convert it to electric. And it ends up being very reliable, low maintenance. And it kind of re-injects life into that car. We think there's a whole bunch of models out there, including a whole bunch of SUVs and sports cars, European, American, even some Japanese ones that will make sense for us as we go forward.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a lack of donors out there as far as like ideas of cars that could definitely benefit from it.
Well, as you know, we add new cars to our lineup every year. And it's time to let the cat out of the bag on our newest one.
Let it out the bag.
Yeah. You want to do the honors?
Yeah. Well, we are here to announce that Kindred's new cat out of the bag, new model will be a Porsche 911. As you see right here behind us, I've had a chance to drive it. It is sensational. I can't wait for people who are Porsche aficionados or those who just love Porsche but wanted something electric or reliable in a sense to take this car out.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it myself. Yeah. I thought I'm going to get in. It's going to feel like other electric cars I've driven, and I'm just going to ride out here and come back and say, Rob, appreciate you. Thank you. Good luck. I came back, and I was like, dude, when can I have one of these? This is the most incredible experience I've had in an older Porsche in my life, and I've owned a ton of them. But it's so much fun to drive.
Yeah, thank you. We wanted to maintain that planted steering, which is like,
Yeah.
that is the DNA of this car. We were able to do that. We wanted to add more power. Those old ones, you think of them as a sports car, but they only have 160 horsepower.
Yeah.
So we doubled that, and then kind of upgraded some of the brakes to make sure we can handle the additional power and torque. And it's a science project. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and what I love, like I've had 964s, 993, the RS 964, 993 RS, new GT2 RS, new GT3 RS, Carrera GT. I've had all the Porsche 3.6 turbo, turbo convertible, 1985 930 turbos. I've experienced the full range of Porsches, and this is right there.
Yeah, this generation, people call it G-body, but 74 to 87. It's just hitting that 50-year plus mark, and this is when they start to fade away pretty quickly.
And this kind of keeps them in the mind of the young next generation. And I think that's the thing. It's like the newer generation kind of gets afraid of the older cars, and everything is about technology and about convenience. But now you can have both.
Yeah, and I think it's younger generations these days don't drive a stick shift.
Yeah.
Really, believe it or not. So
That's a security system for a lot of people.
it
now.
is. So you
Get a stick. Nobody can drive it.
You sure you can borrow this car, but you don't know how to drive it.
Exactly. Don't even lock it. Just here, just leave it.
But I think you open up the pie, you increase the size of the pie of buyers of 911 when you do what we've done here, which is just simplify the car, make it really reliable, low maintenance, and that's, I think, what's going to happen here.
But you're picking cool cars, because I can't imagine if I were this generation and and I pulled up in that. It's so cool because it's just not what you see everybody driving, which I personally like, to drive something that's different.
Yeah.
Not to pass myself on the road every day.
It's unique. I mean, first of all, it's unique that it's an old 911, but then there's that second realization, like, oh, it's electric.
Yeah.
I've actually had people follow me home asking me, like, where is the tailpipe on this car? Like, what is this?
Really?
Yeah. It's a very unique thing. It's a very unique experience. And I think a lot of our customers crave being unique.
Yeah.
And I think this allows you to do that in a very reasonable way.
I want to make sure I have one of those things in my back window that said, "Do not follow me home," because you're scaring me. But yeah, I'm so excited about people to just experience it, because we could sit here and talk about it all day long. I can sit here and talk to you about cars all day long, and I'm excited about the Bronco, excited about the VW Bus, I'm excited about the Porsche, I'm going to be excited about the next things that you do, but people just need to experience it, and that's what I'm excited. Because when I think about people and experiences, it's like, okay, the customers, but I also think about my friends who I know are big car guys, who every day run a group chat, sending each other things about cars. And these are guys who are big collectors and of all different kinds of brands, and also one who's a big designer who designed for Pininfarina and all these other big companies. And for them to experience it, to me, I think it's going to give me the most joy, because I know they're going to love it as much as I do.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting thing, the car culture, digging in on it and being able to share that experience with others is critical. And I agree with you. The EVs, when you drive them, they just feel right. And it's hard to do that, but I think until you drive it, it's hard to experience how wonderful they are. Yeah.
Well, but the Kindred is great in every form.
Thank you. Well, thanks for the conversation. More importantly, thank you for your guidance and your friendship. You are making our company better. I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate letting me be a part of it, and I love the company. I love the product, and it's never going to be boring because there's always something new. And I love the fact you're building a community. And in so many ways than just building a car. You're truly building a community. You're giving jobs. You're doing so many great things. And I'm just excited about what the future holds, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you.
And we got a lot of driving to do.
We do.